Welcome everybody. I'm glad you're all here for this workshop. And YNAB does work with absolutely any pay cycle. And in this workshop, I'm going to show you a simple way of thinking about it that makes your pay cycle less important. Right? There are a number of different types of pay cycles, and we'll put them into three pretty broad categories. Right? Maybe you have a regular pay cycle. Maybe you get paid every 2 weeks and it's always the same amount because you're on a salary. For some people, it gets a little bit more challenging, right? The timing is still regular, right? Still every 2 weeks or every week, whatever it might be, but now the amount changes, right? Often that's somebody paid on an hourly basis, or maybe commission is part of that pay. And anybody out there that's self-employed or a freelancer, you already know this, it's even more challenging because now you don't know how much is coming in and you might not even know when. And this particular pay cycle does have the greatest amount of uncertainty, and that uncertainty can create a lot of stress. Right? But there's still some good news, right? Budgeting does work no matter what your pay cycle. Specifically though, budgeting with rule 1 of the YNAB method. Right? And rule 1 is give every dollar a job. When you're paid, you're going to decide what to do with your money before you spend it. And the key words there are when you're paid. Right? When money arrives, that's when you budget. Right? We're not going to forecast based on predicted income for the whole month. Instead, we're going to work with the real dollars we already have in the bank. And because you only budget what you have, it doesn't matter as much when or how much you get paid. Right? Your budgeting cycle is always going to match your income cycle. Right? You get paid, you're entering that money into YNAB, and then budgeting that money out to your categories. And then as you wait for that next income to show up, you're following your budget and tracking your spending. And so pretty simple 3-step process that you just continually follow. Right? And your pay cycle does impact what you do when you budget. So here's the key thing I want you to remember, and it is that simple way of thinking about it. You can budget as far as the money will take you. Right? With a small amount of money, you might not be able to budget for all of this month right now. In that situation, as you get paid, you're entering that money in and you're updating your budget for the current month. With more money, maybe you can budget all of this month and get started on the next. And with even more money, maybe you can cover a few months. And so let's go over to a demonstration and let's walk through this in YNAB. So here's my sample budget. I've got $500 in my checking account. All of my categories are yellow because I went through and I added a goal to all those categories to help me plan my budgeting. They just represent that's how much I want to budget to those categories every month. I haven't met any of those goals yet, so they're all yellow, reminding me that I still need to add money to those categories. And with only $500 in the account, I am not going to be able to budget for all of the month right now. And so I can budget as far as the money will take me. Let's see how far that is. So what do I need this money to do for me before I get my next paycheck? And that's not very far away, but I do have 3 bills that are due before that. So I'm going to budget for all 3 of those. Notice the categories turn green when I meet those goals. We'll also need some money to buy food and to put gas in our car. And now my to be budgeted is 0. I have now given every dollar a job. So next, let's walk through what we do with income as it arrives. And in my budget here, I get paid on a regular basis, right? I get the same amount twice a month. My wife also paid twice a month, but it's irregular amounts. So I really never know ahead of time what it's going to be. So let's put in my first paycheck. So I got paid by my employer, category to be budgeted. I get $900 each time, right? Twice a month. So back over to the budget. What do I need this money to do before I get the next paycheck? Well, let's see. The rent, there's another paycheck, at least one more before it's due. However, because it's a large expense, I'm just going to budget half of it right now. I can do this. So those are good. We'll need some more money for buying food, some more for gas. Leaves me $270. Let's put in some money so we can do some things that we enjoy, like eating out. Some in the fun money category. Let's see, car insurance. Yeah, let's take care of that entire amount. Same thing with auto maintenance, and the last bit we'll put towards clothing. So always entering that money as it arrives and thinking about what does that money need to do before we get the next paycheck. And so then my wife gets a paycheck. All right, so let's go ahead and add that in here, wife's employer. Go ahead and create that. To be budgeted. And let's say this paycheck for her was $750. Again, back to the budget. What does this money need to do before we get another paycheck? Well, we'll need to put a little bit more to the rent. That would be good. So let's add another $200 to that category. Right, let's add some more for groceries and some more for gas. Let's see, 410 left. So what else do I want this money to do? Well, it'd be nice to have even a little bit more for eating out. So let's add another $30 there. Fun money, my goal is 25. Let's just go bring that up to the goal. $375. Gift, yeah, that's kind of important to us. Clothing, let's bring that up to the full month amount. $245. So what more can I do here? Let's just start adding categories here. I'll show you also how to make this a little bit faster. So I'm watching this underfunded number. Right, $107.50. That's how much I need to meet the goals for these three categories that I've selected. I've got more than that, so I can maybe add on my vacation. Yeah, that's probably everything I'll be able to do with just one click here. And I click on this underfunded button, fills it in. Excellent. Let's put the last $12.50 to the fitness category. Well, notice how I used the money. I took it further into the month, right? Because I can budget as far as that money will take me. All right, so let's put in my next paycheck. Employer, get my nice regular $900. Back over to the budget. So what do I need this money to do before we get paid again? Well, I want to see first, do I have enough to just finish up my budget for this month? So I select all my categories. And I'm underfunded in those selected categories by less than I have in my to be budgeted. One click, I've now fully funded October. Awesome. And we've got some left. So let's move to November and let's get started on November's rent. So we'll do one more paycheck here. We'll do my wife getting paid again one more time here. Her last time for the month of October. And smaller paycheck this time, only $450. I mean, it's just the way it goes sometimes, right? Sometimes more, sometimes less. So I've already fully funded October, remember, right? All those categories are green. They're happy. I still have money left to be budgeted. So to November I go. Let's see if I'm underfunded by more than what I've got, but let's move that $450 to the rent category. So we've got kind of a nice little head start on November. Then we hit November, paychecks start rolling in. We start budgeting out November again. Right, and notice every time I did that, I put the money in there. I asked myself what I needed the money to do before I got paid again, and then I budgeted accordingly. And I continued budgeting until I got that to be budgeted number to zero, meaning that every dollar has a job. And notice how I just went ahead. I took the money as far as it would take us. In this case, I was able to get a reasonably nice start there on November. Kind of nice to do that. Right, and when I can start budgeting into the future like this, I'm starting to build up a financial cushion. I'm adding some financial stability, and I'm also helping to age that money. Because it's going to sit there in this rent category for November, waiting for November to get here. Right, and we'll make our spending decisions by checking our budget categories instead of the account balance. Right, and that just ensures that our money will last us for as long as we were able to budget, as far forward as we could go. All right, so questions on budgeting with different pay cycles and or with variable income. Feel free to go ahead and type those over. While you're doing that, I do want to grab you some links for the next couple of workshops. So go ahead and do that here quickly. All right, so the next workshop is called Cutting Spending. And I always tell people this is not about trying to be a cheapskate. This is about finding areas that are less important to you so that you can trim your spending there, and that allows you to use that money for other things that are more important to you. Right? It's truly an exercise in reprioritizing. So let's put that link to sign up for that into that chat window in case you do want to sign up. And then speaking of money getting older, after that one, I'll be doing this workshop on breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Right? You might well be there now. You probably don't like it. Show you how to get out of it. Right, so questions on working with your pay cycle in particular even. Or anything more general related to YNAB. And Tyler said the process seems pretty straightforward. Are there any major differences in using YNAB for fixed income versus flexible? I mean, either way, you just give every dollar a job, right? That's correct. I mean, I just think that's the really kind of the beautiful thing about YNAB is it doesn't matter your exact pay cycle. It doesn't matter whether you get paid the same amount every time, right? You still use the exact same process every single time you budget. Because YNAB is built for you to use that three-step process. I kind of mentioned it briefly. I showed you that one slide, but it all starts with entering your money. Right, so you get paid, or when you first start that, your starting account balance. So that gives you money up there in your to be budgeted. So then the next step in the triangle is you budget that money. Right, take money from your to be budgeted, add it to your categories until this number reaches 0. Right, once you get there, the third step in the triangle is you follow the budget. Right, so you use those category balances to guide your spending decisions. You record your spending as you go so those numbers get updated. And you continue that until you get to your next paycheck, at which point you enter that income. Right, so you're just continually following that closed loop. And that's what makes it so nice. You just always do it the same way no matter what. Nothing special you have to do because your paycheck's going to be different every time. All right, so any other questions? Again, YNAB in general, pay cycles, variable income. All right, well, I'm not seeing any, so let's just go ahead and wrap this up. Actually, oh, there we go. So Jay Wood is asking, how would you budget for an emergency fund? So emergency fund, that would be another category, right? That's just something else you're setting some of your money aside to do for you. So you can just go ahead and create that new category, call it emergency fund. And then you would simply, as you're budgeting, you would budget some of your dollars to that category. So maybe instead of budgeting all this here, I'm just going to cheat the number because I know I wanted to put $100. Maybe I want to start putting $100 a month away in my emergency fund. I'm simply going to budget there every month now. And in fact, if I want to, I can create a goal for this one as well. Right? Every month I want to contribute $100 to that emergency fund. And then that way, that'll give me that prompt next month to budget for it again. Tyler's asking if you need to set goals for every category. Are there any issues if you don't? You don't have to set goals for your categories, but it provides you a little bit of extra power in your budget. Or at least that's the way I view it. Because now if I select all those categories, how much money do I still need to bring in order to fully fund this month? I need another $2,115. So what if I put that money in there? Because this also, by the way, it's also a useful tool because it helps speed up the budgeting process. So $2,115. I'm just going to cheat and put in the exact amount I need. Over to the budget. So now I select those categories again. One click on this button. I just funded all those categories added to the budget column. So it's not a necessity, but it's a nice tool to help you see how much you still need to add to your categories, and it can also speed up budgeting. But absolutely, if you don't use those goals, no issues at all. I like the way they give me a reminder. I do have quite a few goals in my own budget. Remind me how much I want to put there. Helps me budget faster. In fact, because of the holiday, the Monday holidays, actually I think Canada is as well. I believe it's Thanksgiving on Monday in Canada. It's also a bank holiday here on Monday. So my October 15th paycheck actually just showed up in the bank today. And so I actually got started by budgeting half in November. And Tyler, the goals do in fact carry over every month. Now they do come in a couple of kind of broad groups, let's call them. So the rent, I did a monthly contribution. The car insurance, this is a target balance by date. So what I told YNAB is I said, hey, YNAB, I need $600 in this category and I need it there March of 2020 so I can pay that car insurance. So that goal will carry forward all the way until March. But once March is over, I've gotten past my finish date, so that goal would stop. But I can go to April and I can set it up for the next time for September. Right, and I can do that by simply editing the goal. Right? I can edit it, I can just change the end date. So the monthly ones happen every single month. Any of these by date goals, they go as far as they go, right, until they get to the finish date. Yeah, super useful. I paid my property taxes this month, so I updated my goal for the 2020 property taxes. I'm already starting to save for May of 2020's property tax payment. And there's a goal there, so I don't forget to do that, because that would be bad. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank all of you for joining me for this workshop. You spent a part of your Saturday here with me. I do appreciate that. I hope that I will see you in some of my workshops in the future. I hope you've all been having a really good weekend so far. Thanks, everybody.